This is the day that President Donald Trump's mass immigration raids came to Colorado. One goal was clearly achieved, creating fear and uncertainty in immigrant communities that deportations could happen at any time. It's not clear, however, if another objective was met, actually removing a significant number of violent criminals from the streets, a goal that is widely shared by Colorado's community leaders. After the feds announced that they were going after 100 people tied to a violent migrant gang today, at day's end, the head of the local operation pointed to a single arrest of one gang member wanted for a crime in another country. Now, we know that there were other arrests. We witnessed them. Immigration agents won't say how many today. We saw the arrests happen at raids at least 7 locations across the metro area. That included apartment complexes in Aurora, where police first acknowledged the presence of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua more than 6 months ago. Denver's mayor and Colorado's governor, both Democrats, say they support immigration agents taking violent criminals off the streets. But they say they don't want to see people rounded up solely for the civil offense of being in this country without authorization. President Trump says he wants to prioritize violent criminals, but that he plans to deport every single person here without authorization. Homeland Security says today's raids in Denver and Aurora were targeted against violent criminals. Police! That's security video from the Ivy Crossing apartments at Harvard and Quebec. There you see officers going door to door inside a building and marking each door before moving on to the next. Witnesses at other locations have said that officers went door to door in their locations as well, asking everyone for ID. The acting special agent in charge for Denver's Homeland Security office spoke briefly today, said they were not ready to discuss who was arrested and for what, also said that success should not be based on the number of arrests. After he spoke, each media outlet was allowed to ask a single question before being escorted out of the room. I asked him about targeted arrests of violent offenders versus just rounding up people randomly. You talked about this being targeted enforcement against known individuals. We've talked to witnesses when we've reviewed doorbell camera. It seems like officers were going door to door of a number of places, which doesn't feel like targeted enforcement. Can you tell us how that worked and if you made collateral arrests of people who were simply civil violators?
I do not know about the collateral arrest. Again, those numbers are still being processed. In these apartment complexes, based on information that we have, we do know that people move different apartments. So they may be registered in one and they'll move to a different apartment. We were contacting everybody in that area, looking for the targets that we were looking for.
Let's bring our Mark Salinger. He witnessed a number of these raids today, including, Mark, one operation in Aurora that to your eye very much appeared to be a targeted operation.
Yeah, Kyle, we spent the day following these federal forces from staging areas throughout the city as they drove in convoys of more than a dozen vehicles and armored Bearcats. Eventually, at one of those raids, they ended up here in Northwest Aurora. For context, we're about 2 blocks away from the Anschutz Medical Campus. When we arrived, we saw officers, federal agents, going in, guns drawn, into these apartment complexes. Ultimately, we witnessed 2 people being detained here. I want to show you what that looked like right now. It seems like this is how these raids will take place. Officers enter with guns drawn, wearing full protective gear. We don't know who they detained at this complex or why they detained them. We have, of course, reported at some buildings today that officers were knocking on apartment doors. That did not seem to happen here at this raid that we witnessed. Here, neighbors tell me they didn't do that. It seems they targeted specifically a man and a woman who they took into custody. People who live in the building, though, told me they hid in their apartments praying that police wouldn't take them.
Solo me metí a la habitación con mi familia y nos mantuvimos ahí, guardamos la calma. Mi esposa sí se puso un poco nerviosa, estaba llorando, se tiró al piso y ahí se quedó hasta que se fueron los agentes, pero siempre mantuvimos la calma, orándole mucho a Dios, estuvimos orándole mucho a Dios para que no nos agarraran.
The majority of those federal agents who were here seemed to only stay for about 20 minutes or so, and then after that, the convoy of vehicles moved on seemingly to the next raid. When we came by this apartment building later this afternoon, there were people waiting outside, people who lived there, those neighbors that we just spoke with. They told me they were scared that ICE would come back. Kyle?
All right, Mark Salinger, appreciate that from Aurora. Let's get another perspective now from another raid location, cross city lines in Denver. That's where we find our Angeline McCall. And Angeline, this morning you witnessed what happened at the Cedar Run apartments near Leetsdale and Oneida, and the neighbors told you that felt more like a blanket operation as opposed to going in after someone specific.
So many residents, they had so many questions and they were so confused. Many of them told us, my friend or my loved one, I don't understand why ICE took them. We spoke to many of them today.
Do not open your doors. They need a judicial warrant.
Those who live here knew there was something wrong the moment they heard the noise.
And then out of nowhere, I hear a loud bang on my door, right?
Mark Swell says next came an order.
They had their foot in the doorway. They were blocking me from closing the door, and then they demanded identification for me being a U.S. citizen, you know?
For hours, Mark says officers with ICE, HSI, and the FBI went door to door.
I felt scared. I didn't feel safe in my own apartment. You know, they had no right. I didn't commit any crimes against the law. Everything is crazy out here.
Officers questioned people on the inside, separating them from friends and family on the outside, including Friday Amar.
Estamos todos angustiados sin saber qué vaya a pasar.
She came with her friend, whose 3 children were in the apartment.
Ese es el temor de que no sabemos qué está pasando. Y más que, pues como le digo, las niñas en la casa y no le contestan, no sabemos nada, absolutamente nada.
She would later find her kids when others wouldn't have that same comfort.
Pero Dios sabe por qué hace las cosas.
Argenis Jose was leaving for work with his friend. They were asked for their IDs.
Pues yo pensé que también me iban a deportar, pero cuando me pidieron mis papeles, yo los enseñé y no hicieron nada al respecto conmigo, pero mi amigo sí no tenía nada.
So they separated them.
Sí me dio mucha tristeza por mi amigo y ya no podía hacer nada.
His friend was loaded onto a bus, along with at least 4 others.
Oh, look, they got another one right there.
An abrupt, early operation with an outcome
Yeah, this side, they were...
Mark was able to avoid when others couldn't.
That's pretty scary, you know? It felt like it was a give them your information or you go to jail kind of situation.
We spoke with a woman and she told us that her husband was taken into ICE custody as part of this raid. She showed us her door. There was a big hole about this size where the lock was, where officers just went into the unit and made their way in. Now, speaking of being inside these apartment buildings, there were also tape that residents showed us, different colors on different units, and residents speculate that different colors meant that potentially if ICE made contact, didn't make contact, or potentially had checked their paperwork. Kyle?
We heard fear from folks today, Angeline, that a certain color marking on your door might mean that they were coming back, and Homeland Security did say today this isn't the end. Angeline McCall, thank you very much.